Ding dong, the king is dead. Wow, this is turning out to be a very brutal season. So many great contestants are getting killed in these last few episodes. It's been painful to see, especially with Luke. He's got to be one of the biggest, larger-than-life characters we've certainly ever had on Australian Survivor. Could probably even rival some of the American ones, I'd say. He really is pure gold. He was fantastic. It was a fantastic find for this season of Australian Survivor, and I do hope he comes back sometimes. If American Survivor wants to do a crossover, bring some Aussie ones over, they should definitely take Luke. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, the king is dead. How did this happen? Well, stay tuned because I think we'll be able to pinpoint exactly where he went wrong. So this episode starts with everybody happy after Sarah got voted out. They're literally singing in the morning, and now that Pete has lost his buddy of Tessa and Michelle has taken out her former buddy of Sarah, they kind of buddy up together, so everyone's kind of paired off. Except Ziggy, of course, she's still alone. But Lockie proceeds to unveil his, what seems like a very elaborate and very interesting plan to Ziggy and Tara, and I really wanted to hear what he was going to say, because even Ziggy at the end of it is like, that's a genius plan, but we didn't get to hear it because the voiceover from Tara was being played over what he was saying. Like, shut up, I don't care what Tara says, I want to hear Lockie's plan. That sounded way more interesting, and that's exactly that's exactly the kind of stuff that these reviews are for, and we missed it because of the stupid voiceover from Tara going, oh no, I don't trust Lockie now, it seems like he's playing the game too hard, and can you believe he actually thinks he can beat me at the end? Yeah, Tara, yeah, everyone thinks they can beat you at the end. That's the only reason you're still here. You're a goat. I really am starting to get worried that we're losing all these big players, but Tara is still going to be there. I really don't want the end, if it's a final, I don't know if it's a final 2 or a final 3, but if it's a final 2, could you imagine if it's like Tara and Pete? Oh, what a slap in the face that would be. With all these great contestants we've had in this season, if it ends with those two, let's try not to think about that. But shortly after, Tara declares that she's going to turn on Lockie and she's got to take him out because I guess she needs to justify why she's even in the game if she is going to make it towards the jury, so she's got to have something on her resume. And this follows into her coming across a moral dilemma where she can choose blankets for the whole tribe or a bunch of lollies for herself. And of course she picks the lollies for herself, as she should, correct decision, but then she decides to do exactly what Jericho did and share them with someone else. No, Tara, don't do that. It doesn't matter, it doesn't work. Keep them to yourself. And also she's feeding them to Ziggy. Like, food is really useful because it can fuel you and you can win immunity, but Tara's never going to win immunity with those extra things. It will keep her brain fresh if she's doing strategy, but don't feed Ziggy, she's going to go and win everything. But, maybe not, because then at the immunity challenge, she didn't win. Lockie won again. That's 2 in a row now that he's won. And it's surprising because it was a memory challenge and the final 2 was Luke and Lockie. And, at memory challenges, the girls usually do better because they usually have better memory. But this time it was 2 guys, and that was surprising. But Lockie winning threw a spanner totally in the works because at this point, Tara had been stirring the pot, speaking to all these different people, and it seemed that everyone would be okay with blindsiding Lockie until he wins, and that's totally off the table now, and they didn't even have a backup plan. So they all have to scramble and figure out who to vote for next. Now, at this point in the show, I was watching this on 10 play, so I paused it at this point and I actually thought, okay, what would I do if I were Luke? And I actually pulled up an alliance chart on my Photoshop, and I sat there and I looked at it and I thought, okay, what can you do? What can you do? Michelle is still kind of on board with them, which is surprising. It seems like Sarah just totally took the fall for everything that went on in the last episode, and that Michelle's still kind of open to working with Luke and Jericho. She says as much at the beginning of this episode. So the Asaga 3 really only need to bring over one person, and out of all the people there, Tara has already approached Luke and Jericho to backstab Lockie. So right there, they already have the information they need to flip Lockie. So I just assumed Luke would go up to Lockie and say, hey, Tara's planning to get you out. She just said this. If you don't believe me, you can go and ask Jericho. He said the same thing to him. And then that could bring Lockie over to their side, and then it's 4 versus 3. And of course, since you always have to have a fake plan as well as a real plan, the fake plan to keep everyone else occupied, you could have maybe Michelle go over to Ziggy and Tara and pretend hey, will you guys help me to blindside Jericho? Because Jericho was a name that they did throw out during the KFC reward, so that's someone they already want voted out. Then maybe Jericho could go to Pete and sell him some baloney plan. It doesn't even matter what it is, really. Just as long as you put out some kind of fake plan to keep him occupied. Just as long as they get Lockie on board, they could then vote out either Tara or Ziggy if Lockie still wants to keep Tara around as a goat, or Pete or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's what I was expecting them to do, because that they were given that information of Tara willing to turn on Lockie. It just seemed obvious. But much to my shock, they did not do that at all. Maybe Luke and Jericho figured they wanted to keep her around so they can take out Lockie next time, so he didn't want to reveal the treachery just then. But as we've learned, at this point in the game, you can't plan for the next time, you have to plan for right now. You have to live in the moment and survive each day as it is. And initially though, Ziggy and Tara, they actually don't want to vote out Luke, because the challenge, the immunity challenge, came down to Luke and Lockie, so they know that Luke is the best shot at beating Lockie at the next immunity challenge, so they want to keep Luke around to prevent Lockie getting immunity again so they can vote him out next time. But then when they approach Lockie with this plan, he does want to target Luke, because for the exact same reason that they want to keep him around, he knows that Luke could actually beat him in a challenge, so if he can get Luke voted out, he's only gonna have to worry about Ziggy in those challenges, and as long as it's not a resistance challenge, he's probably gonna win all of them. And for some bizarre reason, they agree to go along with this. They actually agree to vote out Luke, who they need to keep that necklace away from Lockie. I don't understand why they did that. Maybe it was just because of scrambling, they just didn't have another plan, so that was the only thing that was sort of being thrown out there. Just seems incredibly dumb to me. If you want Lockie gone, keep Luke around to beat him in a challenge. It's just crazy. But once word of this gets back to Luke that his head might be on the chopping block, he at the last minute tries to switch everything to Ziggy, that everyone's going to take her out, but it's too little too late. It doesn't work, and it's a unanimous vote. Again, like what happened with Sarah, like every single person on the tribe, except for Jericho, he was the only other one who didn't vote for Luke, other than, of course, Luke himself didn't vote for Luke. But a unanimous vote, and this is actually a bit of a disturbing trend, because we're seeing all the big players getting voted out, and if this trend continues, next will probably be Lockie, and then followed by Ziggy, then followed by Michelle, then followed by Jericho, and then it will be Tara and Pete at the end if it's a final two, and oh boy, we don't want that. But it was a real shame to see Luke go, because he was one of the most charismatic players we've seen in a very long time, and a good player too. Not a great one in terms of strategy, but a good one. You know, he's solid, and he was so much fun to watch, and at the end of the day, it is a TV show, right? But I think one of the big mistakes that led to his downfall was, at times he seemed to be more interested in making big moves rather than making smart moves. Specifically in taking out Tess 2 episodes ago, that was really the nail in the coffin, not just for Sarah, but for Luke as well. Because none of this would have happened if he had not kept Michelle in the dark in that moment. But he did, because he just wanted to pull off that move, he just wanted to do it, and it felt like he was shooting from the hip in that decision. It doesn't seem like he had really thought through what the backlash would be, because whenever you blindside someone, there's always going to be a backlash to that blindside, and he hadn't thought through that this would create a rift between the rest of Asaga and Michelle, and that she could then jump over to the other side and vote out Sarah, then vote out him, which is what happened. And in last episode, Lockie and all the others, they said they couldn't believe that they would leave her out of the loop. They said it was so dumb, such bad gameplay from them, and they're right. So I think part of it's like Luke was just in a hurry to make a big move and just hadn't really thought it through. So the lesson we can learn from that is only piss off people who can't fight back. Whenever you do a blindside, you're going to piss off some people. If he had just waited one more tribal before he made a move like that, and he had just taken out one more Samatau, he could have done a blindside then, and it could have pissed off Michelle, but it wouldn't have mattered because there wouldn't have been enough people on the other side for her to jump over and make a difference. When you're calculating a blindside, you always got to think, who is this going to piss off? How will they try to come back at me? Will they have the numbers to do so? And that moment, that moment when Tess got voted out, it really did shift the entire game. You can look back at that now with everything that's happened since then. None of the stuff that's happened since then would have happened if that vote had gone the other way. If he had just gone along with the Champagne Alliance and taken out Lockie and then dealt with Tess later on, the whole game up to now and all the way to the end would be completely different. There'd probably be completely different players. That really was a $500,000 the decision right there. But Luke is great, he's fantastic, great character, great player, and seems like a really great bloke. And I really do hope that they bring him back at some point in Australian Survivor in either a future season, if they do have a future season, or if they want to import him to the American one, he'd be a great character to have there. Could you imagine him on the American one? People would love him. But all of this really means bad news for Lockie and Ziggy. They're going to have the targets on them now, and they're going to be outnumbered, and if current trends continue, all the big threats will be gone. So let's just hope Lockie and Ziggy form an alliance with Jericho and Michelle and manage to take out Tara and Pete. Otherwise, it's not going to be great, the final 2 or the final 3. So, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I am actually going to create a new Twitter account, because the Twitter account I'm using where I talk about all the Survivor stuff is actually connected to my other YouTube channel where I talk more movies and comic books and nerd kind of stuff. And a lot of my followers on that account are getting annoyed that I'm always talking about Australian Survivor, because a lot of them are in America and they're like, what the hell is this? So I'm going to create a Twitter just for this account, Bandit Strategy, where I can talk about my Survivor stuff. So if you do want to follow me on Twitter, make sure you click on the Twitter icon that's here on this page, or you know what, I'll just put a link in the description, it'll be easier. Follow me through that, and until next time, I'll see you in the comments.